Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. If you haven't seen any of my videos yet and you don't know who I am, hi and welcome. My name is Hanneli and I do art tutorials and art related videos. If you haven't done so yet, quickly scroll down and hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it to make sure that you get notified every time that I post a new video. So today we're going to be painting 4 different succulents and I'm going to be painting them with gouache paints. You're more than welcome to paint along with watercolors or with acrylic paints or oils, whatever you prefer, but they do tend to behave a little bit differently from gouache, so you might not get entirely the same effect that you want. And a huge shout out to my brother this time who edited this video for me, so I didn't have to do anything for this video except give him all of the footage. So you're gonna see what he did to my video. And without further ado, let's get into it. Before I started painting the succulents, I did a live drawing first. So I just sat and looked at them and drew them. And for this, I didn't go outside, no. I stared at them through the window, which is exactly the same as sitting outside and drawing them, except that you are inside and a bit lazy. Anyway, so I stared at them and I drew them. And I made a few drawings just to get an idea of how each cactus works, like how the shadows fall on them, and then where the thorns are sitting on them. So with that knowledge and with those sketches, I went back to my painting station and I started painting with the sketches as a reference. I didn't go back and take pictures of the cactuses themselves for a reference, and I think that really helped me to get a bit of a more cartoony style because I didn't have the actual thing in front of me, so I couldn't paint it hyper-realistically. For the first succulent, I started out by just painting in where the shadows will go, and I used a mixture of Viridian, pale green and titanium white for this. Now Viridian is a darkish green, pale green is it's a lightish green. I don't know what shade it is, but it's in the Montmartre gouache paint set. No, it doesn't say what the shade number is. After that, I mixed a lightish green and started adding the highlights. Then I just start to add a little bit of definition to it, just adding a few more shadows, a few more highlights, and then I started also bringing in a little bit of crimson into one of the shades because this succulent isn't completely green. I noticed when I was drawing it that it actually has a little bit of a red tint sometimes, and I tried to replicate it, but it didn't really come out that much. Then after that, I just added more highlights and more shadows. Then I painted the stem. When I painted the stem, I used a little bit more crimson just to get a bit of a pale color. Now this succulent has some soft round shapes and I actually really like it. I think if I have to choose a favorite succulent, this would be it. And I went to search what its name is, but I forgot it, so I don't know, but it's cute and plumpy. Now for the next succulent, we're going to start out just painting the little pot it is in. And for the pot, I just mixed burnt sienna, yellow ochre and some white. We follow the same process, just add some simple shadows to it, just add some simple highlights. It's not very complicated. Then we follow the same process for the succulent itself. Just start painting in the greens and adding some highlights and shadows. This succulent I based off one that I had. It is very much dead now, but this succulent is the reason that I now have a cactus farm in my house. Why, you might be wondering? Well, it's very simple. I wanted to get more succulents to put in my room, and the best place to get them is in my mother's garden. So I went succulent shopping out in our garden, and I saw that one of my dad's cactuses had a lot of babies. After seeing that, I decided to separate all of them so that they're not overgrowing the pot anymore and all of them can have some room to grow. And while separating them, I realized that there's a lot. So I currently have 43 baby cactuses in my room, and there are more outside, like the bigger ones that can grow by themselves are outside, and the small ones are in my room. And there's so many, and it all started with the one succulent. And as you can see, I'm also just adding some shadows underneath the leaves on the pot itself, because those leaves also will throw some shade on the pot. As you can see, I messed up right there. I dropped my paintbrush on the pot, and gouache is not like acrylic, so if you want to remove the top layer of gouache, you're removing all the layers underneath it as well. But anyway, so I just removed it with a tissue and then kind of tried to fix my mistakes by going over with more paint and just covering it up a little bit, and it turned out alright. And I'm just finishing off by adding a little bit more shadow here and there and making sure that the white of the page does not show through. Next up is this little spiky bud. I thought that all cactuses have their thorns on the little bumpy things, but this one had the thorns between the bumpy things. I didn't know that. So we just started painting in the green as a bit of a background, and then with the darker green we're defining the shadows between the, what do you even call them? The protrusions. We're also just following the same process and using the same colors that we've been using. We're making sure that we define all of the ridges and that there's a shadow underneath each little bump. And that's because the light will be coming from the top right of the page. And we can do this by just taking some darker colors and painting them in underneath the little bumps. And with the rocks we're doing the same thing. The shadows go at the bottom, the lighter parts go at the top. Adding the thorns, as I've already told you, the thorns go between the little bumps. And I just made a mixture of some Viridian and crimson and titanium white just to get a bit of a greyish colour, painting those thorns in. And when all of the thorns are painted, you're going to go over some of them with some white, just to illustrate how they catch the light a little bit. That's pretty much it for this cactus. It's very straightforward. The next cactus is also a spiky bud, but the difference is that this one has the thorns on the little bumpy parts, not between them. Now the last cactus looks a little bit like a plumpy ice cream cone. So the rings that go around it just show you where the shadows will be going. And we're following the same process as before, just defining where the shadows are, defining where the highlight should be going, and sculpting the cactus so that it looks three-dimensional. The same with the rocks, the highlights go at the top, the shadows go at the bottom. Also, just make sure that all the white of the paper is covered and that there's not white showing through, because it can kind of ruin a picture. And then we have to add the thorns again. Again, we're just making a mixture of some Viridian and crimson, and just a mix that looks pale, and painting the thorns in little stars. And again, just taking a little bit more white to define some of the thorns and show where the light is catching the thorns. Notice that at the top of the cactus there are way more thorns, and that is just the way that cactuses work. They just have that. So remember to paint that in as well when you paint a cactus. Right, so this wasn't too difficult, and I think this is it. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to post them in the comment section below. Make sure to share this video with your friends. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you'd like to see more of this content, hit the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell next to it so that you can get notified every time that I post a new video. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again.